Think about this. The purpose of our lives, it's to expand, it's to grow, and it's to give. The biggest question that I get is, Diamyn, why 5 a.m.? Like, why should I be waking up every morning at 5 a.m.? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what is waking up at 5 a.m. going to do for me? And it's interesting because as I was doing some research throughout the course of these last few years, it's like most people, when they wake up every day, they're on autopilot. Like, and when you're on autopilot, like, you're not in control of your day. Like, you literally become a slave to your day, and your mind is controlling what you're doing throughout the course of the day versus you being in 100% control of what you're doing throughout the course of the day. And it's interesting because some people don't even know this is happening. But you've got to remember, we are humans of patterns. We are people of patterns. And most people want to become the best versions of themselves, but they're stuck in these patterns and they're a slave to their days because they're not mastering their mornings. And then they're on autopilot. So they're not even experiencing expansion, growth, presence, power, productivity, which is interesting until it's pointed out to people. But what I'll have you consider is this, like, when you can get in the habit and when you can understand, like, there are a few things that are incredibly important throughout the course of your day, then everything will change for you. Number one is your potential. Like, everybody has potential throughout the course of the day. Like, you have potential to be productive. You have potential to be productive. You have potential to tap into your personal power. But if you don't tap into this personal power, if you don't tap into this productivity, then you're going to go back over here. You're going to be an autopilot. You're going to be a slave to your day. You're going to be focusing and doing the things that you consistently do without ever actually expanding. Like, the purpose of life is expansion. Think about this. The purpose of our lives, the purpose of your life, no matter what career you're in, is to expand. It's to expand, it's to grow, and it's to give. But if you don't tap into your potential, starting with your mornings, then you're not going to be able to expand. And if you're not growing, you're dying. We only have a limited amount of time on this planet. So you understand that your potential starts with your mornings. Your productivity starts with your mornings. Your personal power and tapping into who you are and the highest version of yourself starts with your mornings. Listen. Your ability to have perspective is the next piece to the puzzle. Not just to have perspective, but to intentionally put yourself in a position where you have the best perspective possible as soon as you wake up in the morning, so that it'll carry throughout the course of your day. Most people don't have perspective. Most people lack perspective. And then there's this last thing that everyone talks about that is incredibly important, which is your presence. Your ability to be present throughout the course of the day, your ability to be mindful throughout the course of the day, your capacity to have a conversation with someone and understand exactly what they're saying, exactly what they're coming from. Being able to stay present with the strategies that you're implementing throughout the course of the day. Being able to stay present with what's in front of you throughout the course of the day. Listen, this is why people ask me, Diamyn, why 5 a.m.? Why 5 a.m., Diamyn? These are the 5 things. And you have to be able to tap into your potential, your productivity, your ability to tap into your personal power, your ability to gain perspective on the day, and your ability to set yourself up to be present throughout the course of the day. Can you see yourself doing this? Can you see yourself tapping into this? Are you seeing where I'm going with this? And the reason why you want to wake up at 5 a.m. is because there's this thing called solitude. Like, when you learn to appreciate solitude, it becomes sacred to you, and you can tap into these things consistently every single morning. Like, most people, they wake up and then they go to their email. Most people wake up and they immediately go to Instagram. They immediately go to social media. They immediately go to YouTube. They immediately go to Twitter. They immediately go to Pinterest while they're laying in bed, not realizing that this is setting themselves up to be on autopilot throughout the course of the day, to be a slave to their day, to do the same patterns that they've been doing forever. Like, in order to live your most exuberant life, in order to live your most joyful life, in order to bring the most energy to the day, the most electricity to the day, and to show up as the best version of yourself, you've got to get away from these things. You've got to be away from being on autopilot. You've got to get away from being a slave to your day. You've got to get away from the original patterns that you were taught, trained, and educated to tap into on a daily basis. And start tapping into these things over here. And it's absolutely transformational when you can tap into these consistently every single day, because you're going to show up as the best version of yourself. Like, I want you to think about this for a moment. All of you who are here right now on this call, I want you to think about what the best version of yourself looks like. Like, there have been times when you've probably experienced that best version of yourself, but this is a matter of tapping into it consistently. So I want you to think about times when you've actually experienced like the best days that you've had. The days where you were absolutely showing up as the best version of yourself that you could possibly show up as. These are the days that we want to be able to consistently stack on top of each other. And it's going to start with you tapping into these things consistently, daily, every single morning, in a place of solitude. Is this making sense to you so far? So what's the secret? Like, what's the secret to tapping into your presence? What's the secret to tapping into your perspective? What's the secret to tapping into your personal power? What's the secret to tapping into your productivity? What's the secret to tapping into your potential at 5 a.m., Diamyn? Starts with waking up at 5 a.m. It starts with this first hour. Some people it's an hour, some people it's an hour and a half. But let's just, for example, I'm going to draw this up for you. Let's just, for example, say you start this hour of electricity building, an energy building, this power hour at 5 a.m. Okay? The first thing that I typically like to do is to meditate. Like, when you can get in the habit of meditating, game over. You experience an incredible amount of presence. You experience an incredible amount of clarity. You experience an incredible amount of personal power. This is what happens when you meditate. And it's not just like every other day. Like, I'm talking about every single morning before you do anything, diving into your meditation. Like, imagine this. Imagine if you did this for like 30 days straight. I don't know if you've ever meditated or not before. Well, most of you on here have, because I've been charging you up to do it consistently. But when you meditate, you guys have even said, like, you experience the difference throughout the course of your day. Imagine what would happen if you did this over and over and over, and it compounded over a course of time. It would be amazing, would it not? Okay, now, we only got a little bit more time. So the next thing, after you dive into your meditation, you've got to journal. You have to. You have to journal. Like, you have to put down the things that you want to get done throughout the course of the day. Like, you have to put that list on paper. You have to first, even before that, you've got to start off with just writing down one thing that you're grateful for. Huge. And what do you think this taps into? This taps into your ability to have perspective throughout the course of the day. When you can have a perspective in the morning, as soon as you wake up, that you're grateful for A, B, and C. I'm talking about things just as simple as, I'm grateful for my breath. Like, I'm grateful for 2 eyes to see in, because other people around the world, there are some people out there who don't even have eyes to see. I'm grateful that I was given a heart that beats on its own. I'm grateful that I was given ears to hear. I'm grateful that I was born with all of my limbs. I'm grateful for the air that I breathe every single day. Like, when you can start your day with this kind of perspective, nothing will be able to faze you throughout the course of the day. And most people, it's interesting, most people don't even think about gratitude at all. They don't even think about things that they're grateful for at all, which is why most people lose perspective so easily throughout the course of their days. And so for some, this pocket of time right here, this pocket of time that we're talking about, this could be 20 minutes. This could be 15 minutes. This could be 30 minutes. It just depends on who you are and how deep you want to dive into this. I'd say start off small. Start off with 15 minutes. Okay. Now this next pocket of time right over here, this next pocket of 15 minutes, just for example, that we're going to dive into over here is your body. Ooh, the vessel that we were given to produce. Here's one thing you got to understand. You've got to sweat every single day. Every single morning you have to sweat. Here's the reason why. Here's the science behind it. Like, I remember one of my mentors, he told me this. He said, dude, if you start your days, Diamyn, with activities that will make you sweat, it'll help you reduce this thing called cortisol. I said, what's cortisol? He goes, this is the hormone for fear. What? Cortisol is the hormone for fear? He said, yeah. I said, okay, tell me more. You got me interested. Tell me more. He goes, every single morning, people wake up with automatic fear just ingrained in them because they're on autopilot. Like, we were trained to be fearful of everything around us. Like, your brain wants to keep you exactly where you are. Like, when you start doing something new, when you start expanding yourself in any way, shape, form, or fashion, like your crocodile brain, if you don't know what that is, look it up. Your crocodile brain will immediately get fearful, right? But we want to become better versions of ourselves. So we're going to have to continuously push past this every day. Imagine this. If you wake up every morning and there's something that you've got to do throughout the course of the day that you know you're a little bit fearful about, that you know you're a little bit nervous about. Like, when you sweat at all in the morning, this gives you the ability to reduce this level of cortisol so that you can overcome whatever you're fearful of throughout the course of the day. And there are going to be things that pop up that you're fearful of. But listen, you want to automatically put yourself in a position where you're optimized when you wake up. Are you understanding what I'm saying right now? Are you with me right now? Okay. And then obviously within your body, every single day, if you follow me on social media, you know that you've got to hit the green smoothie. Like, that's your fuel. That's your fuel going into the day. You have to fuel your body after you sweat, after you work out, after you train your body. And you do this consistently. Like, you're setting yourself up for massive success. And I know you want to set yourself up for massive success. All of you here who are watching this, who are listening to this, who are on this, want to set yourself up for massive success. But it's interesting because when we first wake up in the morning, like I said before, we immediately go to these destructive habits. We immediately go to our phone. We immediately say, I don't feel like waking up. And listen, this is not easy what I'm sharing with you right now. It's not easy to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, but you have a choice. And when you can push yourself to say, I'm going to do this consistently, and you actually get in the habit of doing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, you're going to experience a level and a version of you that you've never experienced before. I can guarantee you it's transformational. It will transcend you to another level. Okay, so now you wake up, you meditate, you journal, you go to the gym, you sweat, you get a good intense workout in, a 15-minute intense workout in. And then you knock out your green smoothie when you get back, okay? The next pocket of time is my favorite. Intentional knowledge. So here's what I mean by this. Like, you have to have a time period where you're expanding your mind based on a specific skill that you're building at that time. Whether it's reading, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's listening to, or reading an article based on this specific skill. But first, you've got to understand what specific skill you're currently building at that moment in time. Is the skill that you're building within the game of leadership? Is the current skill that you're building within the game of speaking? Is the current skill that you're building within the game of communication? Is the current skill that you're building, wanting to be more connected within your relationship? Is the current skill that you're building within the game of writing? Is it within the game of becoming a better version of yourself, which means you have to dive into human performance books or mindset performance? Like, what is the skill that you're currently building? You have to get clear on this first before you can dive into this at all. You've got to know what skill you want to build. Okay? Now, when you do this, you're going to feel amazing. Like after just hitting these three right here, after hitting this pocket of time, this pocket of time, and this pocket of time, you're going to feel amazing. Now, here comes another one of my favorite pieces. This is the last piece, is your ability to pour into someone else. Positivity pour into another person. Like when you get into a habit of pouring positivity into other people, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your partner, whether it's a teammate, whether it's another employee who you work with, whether it's one of your family members, you must get into the habit of pouring into another human being intentionally. Intentionally, I'm talking about every single day. For coaches, is this going to be one of your students? Is this going to be one of your players? Is this going to be one of your customers? Like, you have to pour positivity. I'm talking about one specific person that you choose to pour into. Not necessarily because they need it, but simply because our purpose here is to give. Like, that comes down to understanding human connection. Like, when your connection with others will always revert back to this. How can I give? How can I add value to someone else's life? How can I connect with somebody on a heart-to-heart level? How can I connect with somebody on a mind-to-mind level? How can I connect with somebody on an emotional level? But more importantly, how can I intentionally pour into another human being today? Listen, these 4 pockets of time will absolutely change your life. Yes, you want to do all of these things in solitude. You want to do them all in solitude, because this becomes, over a course of time, this becomes your sacred hour, your sacred hour and a half, to where you're tapping into the best version of yourself. You're tapping into your potential, who you should be every single day, who people need you to be every single day as a leader, as an amazing human being, as someone who's working to become the highest version of yourself. You're tapping into your capacity to show up as the best version of yourself. You're tapping into your perspective and knowing that every morning, like, look, I start off with a place of gratitude. I don't care what happened yesterday. I don't know what's going to happen throughout the course of the day. But I know I'm starting from a foundation of gratitude and perspective that will allow me to flourish every single hour throughout the course of the day. And in it, you put yourself in a place where you're connected to where you understand that you are and you will be present throughout the course of the day. Like, when you can tap into these things and you understand that these things are detrimental and critical to your success as a human being and to becoming the best version of yourself, like, this will be easy. It's just a matter of you knowing in your mind, look, I want to become everything I can become. Not only do I want to become everything that I can become, I want to be and I want to show up as that person every single day. I don't want to skip any days of showing up as the best version of myself. I don't want to skip any days where I don't have perspective. I don't want to skip any days where I'm not tapping into my personal power. I don't want to skip any days where I'm not being present with others and present with myself and present with what's in front of me. I don't want to skip any days of tapping into my potential and expanding and growing and becoming the best version of myself. I don't want to do that. That's what everyone else does. That's what 95% of the world does. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that group. I don't. I want to become the best version of me. And all of you who are watching this and listening to this and on this right now, I'm sure at some moment in time you've asked yourself, like, how do I become the best version of me? Not only that, but how do I become the best version of myself consistently? Not only that, but how do I do it? How do I stay consistent with it? And I'll tell you this, the consistency, it's not about consistency. Let me be 100% honest with you here. It's really not about consistency. It's more so about persistency. And when you look up the definition of persistency, you'll understand exactly what I mean. Like when you can get persistent with this idea that I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning and I'm gonna knock out the things that I need to knock out to show up as the best version of myself. When you can say this to yourself and make this commitment to yourself and have integrity within yourself, your whole life will change. The people around you will be like, man, like you're bringing different energy to our conversations. Like, thank you. I remember when I first started doing this, I remember my customers looking at me and saying like, thank you. I remember my teammates looking at me and saying, thank you. I remember my employees looking at me and saying, thank you. You're being present. And typically when I'm sharing what I'm sharing, I don't get this amount of presence back from others. Is this making sense to you? So this is why you should wake up every morning at 5 a.m., right? It's not only the why, this is also the how to do it. But it's gonna start with you committing to saying, I'm gonna be persistent with it. Drop the number one thing that stands out to you from this conversation that we've had today below that you wanna start implementing immediately. I know all of these things, they can look overwhelming, but what's one of these things that you just wanna start implementing immediately within the next 24 hours?